Hi guys, I'm going to make a quick video on the Xbox in order to get your EEPROM off of it. I just got a new 1.6 Xbox, and of course the hard drive is bad. Let's be honest, most of these Xboxes have bad hard drives, and if that is the case, it's impossible to get your EEPROM off. This is one of the easier ways to do it. I actually prefer the PiProm over the PiPico. The Pico just doesn't work for me most of the time. This works fine. I just want to give you guys a little bit of update. It does work for a Raspberry Pi 4, so the Pi 4 is supported and it works fine. The setup's exactly the same over here. I would follow the console org basically information, but you just fix a few things. You could set this is all set up the same on both the OSs, but when you get over to this command, this is actually the newer version of the file, the 1.73 as of 2024, end of 2024. But see where this guy's doing the 1.47, so you're going to do the 173 file. So instead of bcm14, it's going to be 173.tar.gz. It's going to be this name instead of this name. And then so the change directory is going to be the 7.3 directory, not the 1.4.2. So they got to fix that. But you basically can go in here, and then Grim Doomer has his own version of Git, and then you do instead of you follow this command, but if you have a Raspberry Pi 4, if you notice there's nothing for a Pi 4, instead of doing a make P2, you have to do a make P3. That's the big change in it. So you have a Raspberry Pi, you're going to do a P3, even though you have, I understand you have a 4. There's no such thing as P4. But if you do a make P3, that does work. And then again, the ground pins are exactly the same. I don't know why they said it doesn't work for a 1.6. Even they say it over here, like the 1.6 needs additional pins. I just did a 1.6. It worked totally fine. Another thing I really want to mention, this is not being said, this is only the only command you want. So as long as your Xbox powers up, you want to write your EEPROM to the basically to your Raspberry Pi OS, and then I just log in. I email this to myself. That's usually how I do it. So probably the easiest way to do it if you have, because the Raspberry Pi already has Wi-Fi on it. Just connect to the Wi-Fi, email yourself the EEPROM. It's by far the easiest way. And then don't do this, because if you do this, it's gonna, if you have like an EEPROM you want to write to the Xbox, then do this. This is a good way to brick your system. So do not write, unless you have an EEPROM file you want to write to this. Maybe you have an eeprom.bin that's all 1111 or whatever, then you'll use this. But 99.9% of the time, you're going to want to save the default EEPROM, and this is the command to do it. So just be very careful. You only need to run one of the commands. Don't run the wrong command, or you will break your system. I might know a really stupid guy who did this and bricked one of his 1.0 systems. You're actually looking at him. I did this, and I bricked one of my systems, and it's really stupid. So now I need to figure out what I do. And then again, erase it if you have a backup. So this a little bit different. So nothing to denote. So this is the almost a very similar guide, but again, they say it for version 1.6. It's a bit more tricky. I just did a 1.6. It was the exact same method. Used the exact same pins. I used the Raspberry Pi. It was super easy. Exact same tools. I got the same. Oh wait, it was the same numbers settings. Again, and this one's he's using the old version of this too. Where if you click on the website, they have the new version here. So this is the new version. This is the new version file you're going to use here. This one right here. So just FYI, the new version works just fine. Instead of using the one, it's going to be the 173, just a different file, the exact same command. And the only thing I also noticed here, you notice how they have a v3 says make p3 here. So a version 4 is make p4 as well. And then another thing you're going to notice, this is not the right command to run on this. You're going to want to run this command here. See, because it's going to be called, once you compile the service, it's going to be added to a .a. So this is the correct command you want to run. So if you do this, you can say it doesn't exist because it compiles it differently. So that's one thing to note, because if you guys ever do want to take this on and you want to save yourself some time, hopefully this video finds you well. That's how to do it. So if you are interested in doing your basically getting your EEPROM off a bad hard drive, these guides are both good. They're just a little bit out of date, and I just wanted to let you know that I've done this, and it does work for a Raspberry Pi 4. And if you're doing a 1.6, and if you don't have any soldering, you can just actually use pins and butt connectors. It's super easy. But if you do have to solder into this, it needs a very little bit of solder, and you want to use the correct wiring gauge. It's not that hard to do. One thing to recommend you, if you do have to solder it in, you actually can super glue it. It's not going to get that hot if you're really lazy and you just have the wires. You literally can super glue this. I've seen people do it. Those super glue wires, just make sure they're touching, and then they have like basically like a butt connector to the Raspberry Pi, and then when they're done, they just rip it out. You can do that, but just be a little bit careful. I mean, if you're good at soldering, you're going to solder this. This is a pretty big project to take on. So if you are interested in saving your, this is for the original Xbox and getting the EEPROM off, this is the best way to do it. And like I said, I did the same thing too. So we have basically your file explorer. This is the EEPROM I just rescued. Just to kind of show you. So this is a program called eeprom editor. So I'll go ahead and let me just make sure I do the right screen. File, open, eeprom.bin, and then this is the one I just saved. That's a 1.6. So see how this is the EEPROM we just opened up? It's telling me the version. It's giving me the correct hard drive key. It has all the information here, which is great. So this definitely worked. So I was really happy to grab the EEPROM off my 1.6, and this program just kind of lets you know, like, okay, is it working, is it not? And it just pulls information for you. So I recommend checking out this tool here, and it's the XProm EEPROM editor. I'll go ahead and post all the links in the video below. And if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know. Let me know if this is the best way to grab your EEPROM. This is the currently I do it. So I've been modifying Xboxes for a while now, and I like it. I keep buying them with bad hard drives, and I have to pull the EEPROM to replace the hard drive, put an adapter in, and then modify them. That's kind of my go-to. I find that to be the easiest way to go about it. So if you're curious, like I said, just use a combination of both. You can use the Raspberry Pi 4. It will work for you. Make sure you pin them correctly. Obviously, SDA14 goes here, SCL5 goes here, and then the ground you want to do 2. I usually use the number 6 ground. It really doesn't matter what ground you use, but it's only 3 pins. So even if you have a 1.6, this will work. And the great thing about the 1.6 is you can just run a wire and a butt connector. You don't have to solder them in. So I just did this with running a wire and a butt connector. I didn't do any solder or anything like that. It worked fine. And then again, I ran the command from this GitHub after I did a make p3, and I was able to get the ROM to dump. This is the best command. This is the command you want to run. All right, so catch you guys in the next one.